And so
Ooh.
so
Keep going. Nothing in the
Yes.
chat yet.
pardon me,
Oh,
Nothing
you put it in the chat
yet.
before people arrived.
I put it in the chat before people are okay. I'll fix that. So it's just links to the to the previous shows in case you want to go look them up. And because I'm going to try and cover something different this year than I did last year.
There you are.
Which, so you don't get just a repeat of coming attractions, as it were.
I copied them for you already.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So you did. Okay, thank you. Anyway, so I'm going to start out with a lovely poem by Susan Cooper, which I like. It's The Shortest Day. And so the shortest day came and the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen, all the long echoes sing the same delight. This shortest day, as promised, wakens in the sleeping land. They carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends and hope for peace. And so now, and now, so do we, here, now, this year, and every year. Welcome Yule. Well, okay, now we hardly have anything to talk about because she covered it. So, but that is, having last year covered a whole lot of traditions from all over the world, from Yalda, where they eat pomegranates and watermelons, to China, where they make dumplings and rice balls, which are solar symbols, to Japan, where they either soak in hot springs with citrus fruit in them, or now people will get in a tub, and now they have private tubs and with citrus fruit in them. Anywhere we're in the higher or lower latitudes, we're saying higher right now because we got the winter now. They can have the winter in 6 months. It's an amazing level of, you get way up there and you get, months of night. You get up to the end of the, to northern Norway and Finland, and you get an hour of sun, maybe. You get down to, you get down to, the Mediterranean, not such a big deal. In Egypt, they celebrate because you can see the sun rise between the pyramids, and that's a cool thing. But it's not like when you've only got 5 hours of light a day, which if you live far enough up above the equator, that's what happens. So I don't know about the rest of you, but it seems to me this year, having been celebrating the solstice, I realized, looking back through my records, that next year is going to be the 50th year I've had a solstice feast. And we started it out with the solstice candle that I had a huge solstice candle. We lighted it, and it was lighted all year long. I mean, all night long on the longest night of the year. It has been renewed by being the outer core, what's left of it, being melted down, more wax added. It is now mostly beeswax, but it still contains part of that original candle after 50 years, which is kind of cool. It's 49 years now. And it's in there burning now. And I have, we like candles. I'm loving my Christmas pyramids. But fire is a big deal because whether it's candles, whether it's a bonfire, whatever, that's, more light. And while we do have, that was a quick rundown of some of what we had last year, but so this year, because I did a lot more talking about the customs, I want to talk about what we do and why we do it. The key thing is that ever since, say, around St. Nicholas Day, the 6th of December, and continuing on till about 6th of January, we have the days getting the sun coming up, before Yule, before the solstice, the sun's coming up later, and then it starts getting a little earlier, and then getting a little earlier. So in the summer, I don't know if you remember, in the summer when you wake up, the sun is up and the light is flooding through. And now it's, if you are lucky enough not have to get up until 7, the sun is just coming up. And then in the sun going down in the afternoon. Now, of course, it's exacerbated by daylight savings, but it really seems it was getting dark earlier than before this year. I don't know about the rest of you, but it's been a dark year. It's been a hard year. On my social media, I've got people talking about getting sick. Now, part of that is because I tend to hang around with other old people, and old people have physical problems we didn't have when we were younger. My brother-in-law suggested, he said, didn't sign up to be one of these old people that was to go see the doctor every week, but we got drafted. And that's kind of how it feels like. Wait, I did not sign up with this. I'm going to have to deal with it. But what the heck? Yeah, you deal with it, but this has been a very difficult time, and so people want to the changeover when the days start getting longer. It is such a freaking relief to see, oh goodness, it's not dark before I have to go out and milk. It's not dark before I'm trying to think, before I have to make the commute home. Those of you who are still commuting may have to deal with that horrible thing where you're commuting directly into the rising of the setting sun. Like, oh my gosh, it's much better when it's properly up in the sky where it belongs. But what this is, it's a liminal time. And magically, any liminal time is powerful. It's like when you're doing magic with the moon phases. If you want to have something increase, you start at the new moon and you do what going toward the full moon, because it's got the waxing energy. Or if you think about it, and I'm going to, especially, I was relating this to the whole concept of Advent, related to how you deal with Mercury retrograde, because in Mercury retrograde, it looks like, because of the way it looks from the Earth, it looks like Mercury is actually going backwards and going. So it's very good for retracing your steps, as Mercury appears to be doing in the sky. And Advent and other preparations for Yule frequently have cleaning, whether for Yule or for New Year's. You get to see this whether you celebrate Christmas, whether you celebrate solstice, whether you celebrate New Year's Day at the 1st of January, whether you celebrate New Year's in the spring, whether you celebrate it at Chinese New Year, which is a solar lunar thing. Cleaning is always a big part of it. Paying your debts, giving gifts, trying to make things right, because this is a time that is a tipping point. And if you are at that point, it's a lot easier to push things in that way. So if you're going to be doing spells, if you're going to be doing a prosperity or a health or a protection spell, damn it, this is the time to do it. And so, when you get up from this tonight, if you hadn't said, I didn't have any friends, I don't need to celebrate the solstice. Well, you may not celebrate the solstice, but on the other hand, you might be able to use it in a positive way for yourself, to, even if you haven't cleaned your house beforehand. That's okay. We won't make you. It's just simply, it's something that, because you want to proceed from the best point to go forward from. So the more preparation, the more you clear the decks. A lot of people at this time of year do shadow work. And what, maybe you ask, is shadow work? How many of you people, do, I mean, I assume a lot of people do know shadow work, but then again, there is a phenomenon I've seen everywhere where you just assume when you've just found out something that everybody else knew at first. And you could always tell when the ex-president had just found out something, because he says, nobody knows this, because he just found it out. But shadow work is trying to integrate, this one came from, I think, Jung, and it's used in psychology. It's trying to integrate the different parts of your self, or your psyche, or your soul. It's trying to stop the generational war between your inner child and your inner parent. So, to come to terms with the parts of yourself that you have decided you don't want to think about or talk to or even acknowledge exists. And if anybody else here wants to comment and say if they've done much shadow work, if you want to say anything about shadow work, this might be a great time to jump in. The silence is resounding. Okay, I shall move forward. But I'm sorry, in the chat, Star Wolf is making jokes. Lots, that means that your inner child is godlike. But anyway, this is something that's been going on. People, one of the things that I have discovered while looking at this again, they have many solar observatories that there's, and one of the things they keep saying about them is, well, this is even older than Stonehenge. It's like, yeah, Stonehenge is old, but no, people have been doing this for freaking ever. Apparently, I think it was in Czechoslovakia. Which one would that have been? The Gossack, Germany, maybe. Some university said, let's have a archaeological site for our archaeology students to practice on. And with the aerial photographs that look at things that you can't really see easily from the ground, they saw a circle, and it's been really well. I think it was in the 80s they discovered it, and it was simply supposed to be here's a potentially good archaeological site for the students to work on. And now they've even I think it was about 8 years ago, built a reconstruction, which is becoming in Germany, which is where they just put up the posts. Unlike Stonehenge, it hasn't got great big stones, but it does. They have the evidence of stakes being driven so that they can see where it was, where the entrances and exits were, and how it was set up. And so they're pretty sure it was an astronomical observatory, and they have them in, that are 5,000 BC. They had them in Germany. They have them in Spain. They have them in Poland. They have them in India, Peru, China, Beijing, everywhere. So because when it starts getting dark and darker and darker and less light, people get nervous. They don't like it. What if it keeps getting darker? What if it keeps getting colder? You get Fimble winter. It's like there's something really important psychologically to know, yes, it's just going in this direction and it's going to come back. We're going to be okay. That's psychologically very important. We need to know that. We need to be reminded of it. And those observatories were able to do it. Our house, and I think it's just coincidental, but we discovered within a year when we moved in, it's got a long hallway, goes from the eastern wall to the western. And on the equinox, the sun goes all the way through. It doesn't do that more than, and it goes 2 days later, 2 days earlier, it doesn't work. There's the National Lampoon building down in Cambridge has something they call the sinus of the solstice, where the light that comes in through the two little windows on it, they set up the entrance as a flight of stairs, and so the door looks like a mouth, and it's got two windows that look like eyes with a little lantern for a nose. And when the light comes in, it hits the bust on the mantle at the far end of the Great Hall further in. They call that the sinus of the solstice because, of course, they are National Lampoon people. And what else are they going to do? They've got a lot of very weird architecture in that building. But people have done that. There was a lot of churches, especially in the Middle America and the American Southwest, where they were trying to convert the Indians. And when they built the churches, they set it up so that the light coming in on the solstice would hit either the altar or some holy figure. So that's a, so it's a cool thing. People like having something that says, yes, it's going to stop getting darker. And it stops, and it's been the days have been getting shorter, and now the days start getting longer, and you probably can't notice it. At least until, say, the 6th of January. But at that point, that you can start noticing that we're getting a little bit more light, and even though it's getting a little bit more cold. Then you can get on with it. Here's another thing I wanted to throw into the chat is I've got a bunch of books that you might be interested in looking at. Is that going to copy? No, I've got too many of them in one thing. We don't want to do that, Betty. But yeah, okay. So the books, the Pagan Book of Days, celebrate the solstice, celebrating the winter solstice, the fires of Yule, the Sun Children, the Shortest Day, which is apparently turned into a children's book by Susan Cooper, and the Return to Light, 12 Tales from Around the World, which it's one I haven't got and I'm thinking about getting because I am a bookaholic. That's beyond bookophile. But yeah, everybody wants to look at those things. So as the poem said, that one of the things you want to do is you want to take advantage of this liminal time. Another thing you want to do is be with your community. Whether your community is your family, whether it is your whole community. In earlier times, religion was a community thing. It was things you did with each other to cement the ties with the community, because communities that supported each other tended to last longer, and the individuals within them tended to last longer. I mentioned this last year, but I'm going to mention it again. There's a custom, they have something called mince pies in England, which are usually fairly small, little, not too much bigger than bite-sized pies, full of dried fruit and no longer minced meats. But the thing is that every freaking family has their own recipe. And of course, everybody's mom makes it best. But the tradition is when you offer someone mince pies, you say, will you have a month of luck? And for every mince pie you eat from a different household, you get a month of luck. And so that encourages you to go out to the other places in your community so that you can get, because if you don't eat 12 mince pies in 12 different houses, you're not going to get all the way through the year with all the luck you want. And I encountered this in a story about it was from World War I, where of course people really would like to have their sons and husbands and have as much luck as possible and not get gassed and shot. And so the women would go around to the neighbor women and get their mince pies so they could send luck to their sons and husbands. And I just always thought that must have been really hard on the boys who got these carefully accumulated 12 different pies. Because there you are in the trenches with your mates who you'd kind of like to also have some luck, but then again, you also want to get home yourself. And it's like, oh, do we share this with them or not? But I just like, there are a lot of customs that are designed to enhance the relationships within a community. And that's one of the things you really ought to be doing. Another thing that these community things had to do with blowing off steam. They talk a lot about, well, we're going to scare off the evil spirits by making a loud noise. What you're doing is you are blowing off steam. You're blowing off your own evil spirits. You're getting your own frustration out. I like, I'm perverse. I know it. All people know this. So we when everybody is going, oh, boo-hoo, the goddess is leaving in the fall, we say, well, welcome to the god who's coming in, and we blow a very loud horn, and everybody in the family goes out on the front porch and blows a big cow's horn and sees who can make the loudest, longest blow and really annoy the neighbors. But things that enhance community is singing songs. There are very few things other than singing groups that make you that solidify. I know that a lot of people think that playing games on the same team is very good for enhancing the community relationship. I am not as fond of that, because usually that, to me, team sports is very focused on othering your opponents. And that doesn't seem to me a very useful thing to do, because, yeah, You want to do cooperative play, in my view. But then again, I was raised in the 60s, even if my parents weren't hippies. No, I would have been a generation that it would have been hippies. Whatever. Anyway, I wasn't, because I was perverse, and all the other kids were going to be being hippies. I wasn't going to be hippie. I learned to admire them later. But so yeah, blow off steam, but work with your community. Things that you can do with your community are good. So whether it's for solstice, where in Brighton, England, they make great big paper lanterns shaped like clocks, politicians, all kinds of things that annoy them all year round, and they take them down to the beach, parade them, put the little lights inside, parade them down the street, and then take them down to the beach and burn them. That's a modern solstice celebration. It's like, we're burning an effigy. It's a great thing to do. My daughter showed me this year how to make a little paper star. You take a strip of paper and you fold it and pinch in the ends, and you get a little very round, very cute, tiny paper star. Oh, but before you do that, you write a wish on it. And what we've been doing is we've been taking these wishes and putting them in, putting energy into them, and then tossing them in the fire so that they can be released into the universe. Making wishes. It's a liminal time, perfect time for making a wish. Like when you wish on the first star, right? But this is there's a little wishing stars. I thought those are so cute. I should have brought a piece of paper and showed you how to make them. I don't know if any of you have heard of those. It's just done from paper strip, and then you fold it up and it turns into a little fat star.
Yeah, there was actually a Klutz book for them for some time back.
Now, apparently the kids used to make them in school when they were supposed to be doing their homework. There's your star. There's
my star.
But making a wish, divination. And this is something that I spend a lot of time thinking about and doing. Any liminal time is a good time for divination. And the question is, what are you doing with it? I think it's very important to be aware what it is that you are trying to accomplish with your divination. You want to be, you're going for information that you don't have that might help you live your life better. You want to, for instance, I do an annual reading for my sister, and we draw a tarot card, 12 tarot cards for one for each month. And we really, usually we come December, we go back over that and we look at them and say, oh, that's what that meant. Because frankly, trying to define a month by one card is difficult. And when you get the Tower and you get some of the more difficult cards, it's very nice to see the 9 of Cups and 10 of Cups at the toward the end of the year, saying, oh, it's going to get better. Sometimes just a little bit of reassurance to know that it's going to get better is what you can do. But the point behind divination is empowerment. You need to be helping yourself. You need to be helping the client get some perspective. Now, frequently when somebody is getting divination, they are looking for a specific answer, and you're not giving it to them because it's not in the cards, it's not in the dice, it's not in the rooms, it's not on the chart, because they're very much not doing. They say that if you when God closes a door, he opens a window. But if you're standing with your nose at the door, doesn't matter if the window's open over there, you're not going to see it. And so part of the role of the diviner, the soothsayer, the reader and advisor, as that usually says on the fluorescent lights in the window, is to help the person figure out what it is they really need. You ask that you got to keep rephrasing it and use the Socratic method to ask them questions until they answer their own, because if they come to the answer themselves, then it's going to be more acceptable to them. You say, well, what do you want to do? What do you think you can do? What do you need to do? What are you able to do? What can somebody else do for you or with you? It sometimes like pulling teeth, but the whole idea, when you're being presented with a problem that you haven't been able to figure out, and nobody's going to ask a divination for something that they don't really give a damn about. They want to know, they want to know the easiest way to handle it. And let's face it, the great deeds are done by the laziest men in the world who are trying to figure out how to get the most impact for the least effort. But if you are not, you got to think outside the box. And sometimes that's the role of the diviner, that is to help people think outside the box so that they can so that they can come up with the answers for themselves that they haven't been able to come up with. And this is an important thing for soothsaying. And I really think that we talk a lot about the veil being thin between Samhain and Yule. And maybe it's between Samhain and Midwinter. But actually, a lot of people call Yule Midwinter. To me, Imbolc is Midwinter. That's when I'm liable to have blizzards in New England. So that's a thing that we don't see that much. Is it thinner? I think there's something. I tend to think of it as worlds having different frequencies. And sometimes the frequencies, like every radio station has its own frequency, and sometimes you can get really weird stuff going on if the atmospheric conditions mean that your receiver is getting, suddenly you're getting the programming from Mexico or Scandinavia. Is like, what the heck is going on? Because it's bouncing off the clouds in a strange way. In this time of year, we are getting closer in frequency. You want to call it the veil thinning. Okay, but we're a little closer to the lands of the dead, of the ancestors, of what we often refer to as the good people, the Fae. There are many other, I think that this time of year, there's a lot of convergence with many other worlds, and therefore we have access. This is a good time, I think, to do ancestor work. Last night we celebrated in our household Madranach because the Venerable Beta told us that the Anglo-Saxons had celebrated the Mother Night on the night before the solstice. Other people are interpreting the Lord slightly different. The Saxons referred to them as the Idisi, the Norse referred to them as the Disir, the Germans called them the mothers. Basically, let's just say that while the warriors may have gone off to Valhalla, the women who'd been running the household didn't see any reason to leave. They were going to hang around and continue telling their daughters-in-laws and their daughters what to do. And it works. So, we put some cookies and some mead and candles on the altar for the mothers, and I drank to Mother Hola, who was kicking my butt and telling me to wash the dishes and sweep the floor and all that stuff. I think, and if you mention her, she's going to make her presence even more known in your head. And Frigga, who is the lady and queen that who knows all, and I'm hoping that she can teach me how to keep my mouth shut, which is something I'm not very good at. She is said to know all, but she didn't. The same time she let the old man go out and sacrifice his eye to get wisdom and stuff like, and hang on the tree to get the runes and to get information she already had and she's not telling you. I mean, some people might consider that very bitchy, but the woman knew how to keep her mouth shut. But and to my mother and grandmother and Grammy and the women I don't know much more about in my family line, and the great mothers from the Anglo-Saxon period, Eir, who's a healing goddess, and Freya, because she's I do runes, and therefore of course we want Freya's help. But this is just something that I've been doing ever since I read some Veda and found out that this is the Mother Night, and many other aspects of heathens do this later on, say January or on full moons or whatever. The Disir blood, the Disir would be all the female beings that are powerful. Speaking of female beings that are powerful, when we talk about the wild hunt, this is something that is, the veil gets thin and the scary guys are running through the sky. Well, you know who else is going through the sky? Mother Hola and her bunch, and Frau Perkta, and some of the earliest Roman stories about the spirits going through the sky was Habondia or Radia, the ancient goddess Diana, who would come in, and when you went off to mass on Christmas Eve, you would freaking leave out food for her, because if she didn't find something on the table for her, then she would not leave prosperity. If she did, you would have prosperity for the year, but if you didn't leave an offering for her, then you wouldn't get prosperity. So this does indicate a long tradition of assorted non-corporal beings coming in and accepting corporal gifts that at this time of year. And our ancestors seemed an awful lot less concerned about the actual date. You get people more concerned about dates when they start writing things down. Church, very big on dates. This is saint day, that saint's day, got to keep track of them. Certainly allows you to remember to get every saint into there somewhere. But whereas the other people had seasons, before. Good, somebody got that. This is the winter season. This is the Yule season. This is the season of this is when the spirits are walking, and I don't know if you remember, that used to be that there were times of day when it was a lot cheaper to make a phone call. you're making a long distance phone call. Gosh, nobody ever would do it before. Not in our house, and before the rates went down. Well, that's what this is. At this time of year, the rates are down. It's gonna be a lot easier to get in touch with the people on the other side. So if you're, let's just say that you're more solid during harvest time. We're more solidly separated. The amount of work we're focusing on growth and harvest seems to keep us more firmly in this plane and them in their plane. God knows what they're doing over there. None of our business. What did I want to say? Okay, I'm going to throw it open because I have been talking for so long. Is there anybody else got anything to say? Okay, I'm going to ask you a leading question. What do you guys do to celebrate? Are you all here because you don't celebrate the solstice and you have nothing to do tonight?
Well, I acknowledge the solstice. I don't always celebrate it because I don't always have a real means to do something about it. We try to light candles. Candles have been a little difficult lately. I'm very consciously aware of the thinning of the veil, and I'm still feeling and seeing Toaster in the house, and I'm starting to try and figure out something about getting the next cat for Callie, and I'm wondering if Toaster has guidance for me. And that's about all I can say about it right now.
I mean, we don't have to. You don't have to. I mean, as I said,
Yeah.
I think that our ancestors, before we had clocks and calendars, were a lot more interested in the season than they were in what number or what day it was.
I want to be able to do more, but I keep getting cheated out of that opportunity.
Well, I wanted to remind people that this is a time where the rates are low and it's going to be a lot easier to do your magic.
I'm working on it. On it.
So if you want to do something.
Well, I've been to a couple of solstice circles here in Connecticut, so that handles the big public, as it were, sacramental stuff. I've also turned on the little the battery candle that runs in the little Yule log that I got from CWPN, God, ages ago, and walked up to the cinder block in the upper part of the backyard where I leave sacrifices, and poured a little nip-sized bottle of apple brandy into a cup and left it out for whoever wants it.
I think they drink. Unless the laws of physics are changing, I have noticed that the level goes down in in the cup that we leave for the gods.
Yeah.
And so now I know it's well considered that when you leave out your bowl of porridge for the Nissa or the Tompton, that something else will eat it in their, and that's acceptable. When in Shinto or in India, in the Hindu religion, when people make an food or a flower offering to the gods, it is put on the altar, it is blessed, the gods get what they want out of it, and then the gods, they bless it and the priests give it back. Then in Shinto, they have a little altar beside the table. They will put the food on that, and then they will take it off and everybody eats it. The ancestors have then had, and the kami have had a chance to have what they want from it. And
well,
I
can't drink, so I basically leave it for the gods or whatever else is going to sip it down.
Yeah. Well, it's, we made mead this time, but we decided last year we were going to make mead and invite people to solstice, but we got like 3.
Sorry to hear that.
We made 3 gallons of mead.
Oh, well,
So, but luckily it's very light mead. So, so today Willow took some off to a friend who.
I wish they would make like nip-sized bottles of mead as well, or little bottles.
Yeah.
Would be easier for me than having to find places for a big, quart-sized bottle of Viking blood.
Mm. Yeah. So
We had a fire already, but my son had to go to bed early. So I had time to come on and see what y'all are doing.
well, what we're doing tonight is just chatting to a certain extent. The trivia aspect was covered last year. So we will remind you in the chat, if you go to the 3 dots, you have a chance to download the chat. And that will have the links. If you're interested in that, you can always just go over to the Changing Times, Changing Worlds channel and look at, we have a lot of weird things hey, that's kind of our middle name. It's a Changing Times, Weird, Changing Worlds. If it's something that's unusual, that's what we like to look at. The word occult means hidden, and just we've decided that it's about time we stopped hiding things that are infinitely practical. So, and just the idea, the solstice is something that we can all celebrate. The solstice, we don't have to worry about wars on Christmas or war on Hanukkah or wars on whatever else is going down. Just be a community together. See what we have in common. For goodness sakes, we are, most of us have 2 legs, 2 eyes and 2 arms, although they may not work as well as you get a little older. And so it's
Unfortunately, somebody should tell Putin that, because he rejected the idea of a Christmas truce in Ukraine.
You cannot reason with someone who does not use logic. So it's something like talking to the good people. They don't think the way we do, and that's why we have to learn as much as we can about them with fairy stories and other things, so that we can learn what the rules are, and then remind ourselves that they have tribes too, and one tribe may not have the same customs as another. So keep
I would
your eyes
rather
open.
deal with an entire troop of the good folk than a madman with a access to nuclear weapons.
And an agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So, and I will remind everybody who is looking at protection spells and other spells, go for something local and specific over world peace. I mean, orgasm for peace is nice, but you do better to work on a small scale that's effective and then you hope that hundreds of other people are also working on that small scale and it will spread, than to try for something that's so big you're going to be so diluted it's not going to have much of a noticeable impact. When you're doing divination, again, you are specific. You want to go for, ask the question that you really need the answer to. Steve, I'm on the air right now. Anyway.
I'd like to answer the question that you asked before. I found it very provocative, because I realized I'm not doing any ceremony for Yule, but since I moved, a couple years ago, I moved up here to the woods, a farm in the woods, and I'm communing with nature just by looking outside my door. And that's really substituting for ritual, for seasonal ritual for me, more than I realized until you asked. So that's good.
Well, we don't do much by way of ritual. I've often said that we have three prayers. We have help, we have thanks, and we have oh wow. And that about covers almost all our prayers. When you live out where you want to live, and I am going to be open to the possibility that there are people who living in a metropolis, living in a very high density area, may be living the way they want to live. It certainly is not the way I want to live. I need the fresh water. I need the air. I need the dirt. I need I need the sunlight on me. And all of these things are things that I need a house with a southern exposure. When we're looking for property, I looked at the things that I felt were absolutely necessary. And I realized, okay, yeah, that's, I've just said earth, air, fire, water. It's, if you have built a life that's in harmony with what you're looking for, it's a lot easier. But if you're still searching, if you still haven't figured out what you're looking for, that's where the divination comes in. And you can help yourself find what you're looking for. Again, going back to that outline of what do I want to do? Can I do? What do I think I should do? What am I able to do? You go through those things. You got to look at it from all kinds of sides. And one of those may, like, you know what? I don't care about what I should do, or there's only what you must do. What must you do? Continue to breathe in and out. That's probably really good for your continued existence. But yeah, I think that we like the tree because I like the way a balsam smells in the house. I have been known to get an extra wreath just to hang in my bedroom because I like the smell. So, yeah, you figure out what's important to you. I mean, to me, when I'm celebrating the season, the music and the cookies, things that are important to me. That's what I do. Presents, not so much. Oh my God, young people, be aware. When people get old, there's not much they really want. Bring them something, be with them in a way that they will make a nice memory, but don't give them something else. They have to figure out where they're going to put it. We're out of space. I mean, I like stuff, but I got no place to put it. I mean, let's face it. I've got too many of these wonderful little tchotchke things where, no, that way. Yeah, that one. I love these things, but I think I've got too many of them. If I didn't have a big attic, I'd be in deep trouble. Come on. Okay. Did anybody else have anything? What do you do for solstice? Now that we know that stone is happy and doesn't need to do anything. Hey, when you've got success, can you open a window twice? No, once it's open, it's open. You've achieved what you're looking for. Star Wolf gives those who drink a drink. I put cookies on the altar. That's what I do.
It's like for Samhain, I put blood sausage out on the altar for.
Yeah.
I also eat some of it myself, but
yeah. My daughter was I was drinking the mead to the goddesses and the ancestors. She said, tea. Oh, tea would be good. I'm going to make tea for the goddess. Now, most people wouldn't think of tea as being a really good offering, but
I
as
can
she
see
said,
Frigga
if
setting
it's
down with a nice pot of oolong.
if it is something that you like, sharing something you like, that's the way to do it.
I can think of stranger things than tea with the goddess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's offerings are something that people do wonder about, and sometimes an offering isn't necessary. Offerings are often sharing. This is, as I was saying a little bit earlier with the Shinto and the Hindu things, you're sharing it with. It's like sharing food with people is communion. It is creating community. Singing with people is creating community. Walking with people, doing any activity, working on a mutual project, whether it is, cleaning a park or building little homes for the poor. It's doing something together it creates community. And I'm going to do my usual thing and push you to create community, like a Venn diagram, the overlapping communities, but create community of the people that are local with you, even if they are different religions, even if their religion says you're going to hell. It's like, just politely, like, I'm not worried about that, but don't we have to see what we can do to help the homeless around here? And it's like, let's work on what we agree on. And that will strengthen our communities, because we do agree on a lot, and we disagree on some other things fairly diametrically opposite, but we don't have to fight about it. Anyway, it's 9, so I'm going to finish up. So, when you leave, if I have reminded you, this being a liminal time is a great time for doing divination. It is a great time for doing protection or prosperity or a health or letting go spell. This is a good time for letting go because we're tipping, so we can just leave the stuff behind that you don't need anymore. So good time for spelling, and go forth. And I'm going to anything. This is your last chance to say anything. Thank you all for coming. It's really nice to see this many people.
Thank you for doing this.
Oh,
Yep.
I wish I had thought of some. Oh, next week. Let me see. Let me first turn off the recording. There. Yes, I want to stop the recording now. Yeah.